Hello, everybody. This is Gynarchic Awakening. I am here because an individual left a few comments. Michelle, by the way, thank you to that person, Religion Made Simple. You brought up some great questions. I'll try to do my best to answer them. I'd like to say I'm not in tip top shape because I have a few different things going on. Mainly, though, I'm really trying to bust my butt hard to get France finished tonight and then to get on towards Turkey. I am this close to being done with Europe. That close. Like as close as these two fingers can touch, can get together without touching is probably how close I am. So that's been taking my time away. I do it every day. I know it's a little repetitive. I'm sorry if it is. It's just this is what I do. I've sacrificed my time and my energy because I believe in what I'm doing. And you brought up some very great questions. I do want to get to the owner of one of the groups, though. First, because you were talking about, their stance on fetishism and their posts. Some of that, according to what I read, that had to do with decentering men in conversations about fetishism, or in other words, having fetishistic content that is not strictly male-centered or something like that. Now that can be its own discussion. You can have whatever opinion you want about it, but I think that's what they were going for. So it might be something. It might be something about not wanting to abandon the concept entirely, but rather trying to break free of the male-centeredness that uh, often enters into the conversation when fetishistic stuff is brought up. And you can actually tell that most of the fetishistic content is extremely not just male centered, but very self centered. How many fetishistic works talk about the health of women or the well being of women? It's usually just about what makes the man's dick get hard. So that's probably what that's about. I do want to get into some of the main questions because I think these are really important. Uh, I haven't 100% made up my mind about the title of the video, but it's probably going to be something along the lines of community versus individual mindset-ish stuff. So, you have a community mindset, and you have people who think about community, who relate to community, and then you have individual mindsets. And so I feel like the discussions that are about to follow will answer these questions, especially as they relate to those two types of kind of mindsets, because that will explain where all the gatekeeping is coming from that you're talking about. Now, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I want to make that clear. I'm not assigning some kind of value to this. I'm simply providing my perspective as a service submissive who took screenshots of private conversations between someone I served and the individuals that they were having conversations with. I do not, I'm not here to say that what they're doing regarding gatekeeping is right or wrong. I just would like to provide a larger picture so that maybe if you don't know these things, you'll begin to understand them. And perhaps why the women in the community in particular have been doing the kind of gatekeeping they're doing, why one of them even said we need the good kind. And that may relate to some of the questions that you have. So the first one is lack of group participation. I just kind of edited it a bit because I needed to focus on it. What's the cause? So, to be honest with you, I haven't been paying close attention to rates of participation or how many people are participating during each one. I haven't been like doing a tally. I haven't been counting every single one of them because my focus has been on suggesting to every nation in Europe. That's where I've been at. That's what I wake up for. That's what I'm doing when I'm not collecting bottles, when I'm not exchanging them, when I'm not, signing information off on a job application on digitally, whatever. If I'm not doing these things, I'm suggesting her books to those nations. So I don't know. I don't know how accurate that statement is, and I don't know what exactly it's based on, but if you're just doing the count, like let's suppose it were true. I mean, I don't have any reason to doubt it. because the person reads the comments, mine and others. So what could be the cause? And he said the cause in his was he stating it as it's gatekeeping. Now that's a possibility. It could just be that certain types of subjects don't appeal to people in the way that maybe others do. But I would also like to offer another interpretation as to why there's been a lack of group participation or why it seems to have gone down. I think it's because there's been I think, especially if you look at the past few months, not only has there been a higher quality of content that's more complex and sophisticated, but it's not fetishistic oriented. And I think that that is something that may be driving down some of the traffic because they're not getting the content that they want, and so they're going elsewhere. Now, there's 3,500 members in that group, which is pretty damn impressive considering where they were even over a year ago, or if you want to turn back the clock even further than that, or wind it back even further. I would say that they're doing okay. They're not terrible. They certainly, I would say that Gynarchism is suffering a lot more from group participation than serious Gynarchy is. But then again, I also understand where you're coming from, because it's like I wrote a comment and it took like 2 days before somebody, commented on it. It makes you wonder, where is everybody? Are they just busy? Is this just personal bias? So I think that we have to remove our own biases when we analyze data, because sometimes it can look like, oh, there's no activity, when it's really just the subject matter that's not attracting people, or the particular kind of content that's being produced is not attracting, is not filling the seats, so to speak. But I would like to offer my own point of view on this. I don't think that this is necessarily a bad thing, because if you do growth for the sake of growth, that doesn't guarantee a healthy lifespan for Gynarchy or for in-person communities that are Gynarchic or anything like that. And I also would like to say that I appreciate where you're coming from on this, but as somebody who has seen the way that fetishists have interacted on not only this site, which is Reddit, but on FetLife and everywhere else, I can tell you that the reason for the gatekeeping behavior is almost entirely predicated on the behavior of fetishists, particularly male fetishists. It's not simply like what they're into. That's only part of the story. It's the rest of it that you need to know about in order to comprehend why things have developed in the way that they have. Like the very existence of the Serious Gynarchy group was to shift the conversation away from a male-centered perspective towards something that's gynocentric. So I don't really think you can fault them too much for their kind of need to be like, okay, let's keep the focus on these subjects, and if they're not about the other ones, why bother? Now, I know that maybe it can seem like things are like they're being purposefully exclusionary, but until you know how these individuals behave in private conversations with women, until you understand the types of mindsets they have, you may not understand where the gatekeeping has come from. Now, you don't have to agree with the gatekeeping, but you should understand where this shit is coming from. Now, I want you to imagine this for a moment. This will help explain the community mindset versus the individualistic mindset. And that will answer the remaining questions, which are, why are we turning away people whose entry into Gynarchism is through fetishistic works? Why aren't we educating them? These are great questions. But I want to try to explain it like this. Why I think this is happening. Why there is this gatekeeping taking place. Why there is a change in the community going on. If you have people sitting at a table, let's say you have 10 people at a table and then you have one person coming on over. Is that person guaranteed to care about anybody else at that table? Would they die for somebody else at that table? Would they sacrifice for someone else at that table? Do they love anyone at that table? Would they be willing to give up their lunch to feed someone who is starving, who is sitting at that table? Just because somebody is subscribed to a group, just because they're sitting next to you, it doesn't mean that they're your buddy. It doesn't mean that they're your friend. It doesn't mean that they're part of the community in the psychological sense that you would think they would be. They are there for some other reason that maybe you don't understand. Maybe I don't even understand it. Could be for attention, pastime, boredom, or a specific relationship that they are attempting to pursue. So this is something that has kind of followed and haunted the community since its inception. And it's because it formed on the internet. But the thing about the internet is the internet breeds isolation and separatism and division. It is known for doing all of these things. And yet it produced it's kind of, in a sense, you could almost see it as a contradiction. A bunch of people who are, generally speaking, socially isolated, who feel like they don't fit in with their community, who they're on in-person communities, who are separated, are coming on the internet, and they're forming a, quote, online community, but they are doing it from a place of loneliness and isolation. So we've had many discussions about communities in and out of the femdom community, in and out of the Gynarchy community, in and out of pretty much any other community. You have these talks about intentional in-person communities. This entire community developed from a place where every person is not in the room sitting next to each other. These people, for the most part, have never even, I've never even seen these people face to face. I've never met anybody in person from the Gynarchy community. Never. And they've never actually met me in person either, for the most part. Even in my other relationships before I was part of the Reddit community, we never actually met in person. So a lot of us are seeking community, but we're doing it from a place of isolation and loneliness. We are getting on the internet talking about community, but we're sitting in our homes. We are not necessarily associating with everybody who's in our community, in our in-person community. So that isolation, that loneliness, that need to have something that you're not finding offline, that creates a problem. So you're alone, you're by yourself in your room, or you're with a few people. But on the internet, when you're typing a comment, when you're trying to interact with them, there's hundreds or even thousands of people reading your comments. And sometimes they're typing or whatever, but that's not the same thing as them sitting right next to you, participating in an activity with you in a way that is more physical and verbal. You can't hear their voice when you're texting. You can't see them dancing or anything like that unless they put a picture of them dancing or whatever. In other words, there's a limit to this kind of interaction. And because it's limited, I think that there's a tendency to be a bit tunnel visioned in our criticisms regarding gatekeeping. We see gatekeeping is a concept that does have some negative connotations to it, because it's naturally an exclusionary thing. It's like, well, that's not nice, kicking people out or keeping them away. Like, what did they do? And this is the part where I have to come in here and I have to provide my perspective, because my point of view is that this is the fault of how male fetishists have interacted with women in several different communities for over a decade. And those interactions influenced their decisions regarding the communities that they're currently operating in or are running. If the men did not behave in the ways that I'm about to discuss, if they did not have what we know as the selfish mindset and they were more community minded, this wouldn't be as much of an issue as it became. So The idea that these people are just innocent human beings who just have an innocent interest and that they're not doing anything else behind the scenes, I'm telling you, religion made simple, that is not true. Some of these people are incredibly narcissistic, are vicious, are mean, are vindictive, and they are always swarming the women in our groups. I'm not joking. So whenever the women identify as being a gynarchist or saying whatever, they get hundreds and hundreds of emails and messages from men who have one thing in mind. They are in it because they are relationship oriented. They don't care about community. And I know because this happened to me in my personal life when I tried to set up a Discord. These people don't give a fuck about community. They don't want community. They are coming here because they're using the material as a way to try to find a girlfriend, a mistress, whatever, whoever it is. And if you don't believe me, ask some of the women in the community what they're fucking doing. And if you think this doesn't have an effect, you're dead wrong, because if they're only interested in the relationship aspect and they know they're not going to get what they want, you know what they'll do? They'll bail. Now, if somebody's only showing up for one thing and you know what it is, what would your opinion be about their ability to integrate into the community? Do you think that they would be a positive contributing member or not? I'm not saying it's impossible that they can change. I'm saying this is what they do. They come in here, they bombard the women with messages. They want to date these women. They want to do things for them because they're looking for they're looking for the validation of these women. They're looking for their attention, their energy, their time. Sometimes they want to date them. Sometimes they want to fuck them. Yes, really. This is the kind of, and they're getting peppered with this attention all the damn time. It's happening on FetLife, it's happening on the other websites, and it's happening fucking even here. It happens all over the damn place. So whenever they're coming here, that's the bullshit that they're doing. And so that your behavior, the way you act, sets the tone for how people are going to respond to you and how they're going to treat you. And if people know that you just want them and that you don't care about the community and you don't care about its stated goals, that's not going to go over well, especially if you have no personal interest in them. You don't even know who these people are. Most of these guys come on here and they hit on women and they just talk to women, but the women don't even know them. Like, who the fuck are you? I don't know you. The thing is, they're there for two different reasons. This is the main reason why whenever you see communities, like, women are the only ones I've ever heard of who've been able to create a community with only their sex. When is the last time you heard of only a bunch of guys having a fucking community? And do you know why they don't? Because they don't do that shit. As a general rule, they're pursuing the opposite sex. So women create communities, men destroy them. Sorry, it's just a little fucking comment. I had to say it. Well, not all the time. But what's going on here is, let's say I go up to you and make it clear that I don't care about community. I don't care about stuff. I just want to have a relationship with you. How are you going to respond to me? Right? Because it kind of feels like, in a sense, it's like, well, wait a minute. Do I have to be in a relationship with you in order to get you to do anything? Well, I mean, that right there puts the pressure on the women and the girls. It's like, and anybody else in that conversation. You know, it's like, wait a second. In order for me to get you to, participate in the community, care about community, I need to feed you crumbs. I need to give you something in order for you to stay on board. So right away here, we see that these fetishists take time and energy away from the women in the community. They not only take it away, they suck it away. This could go towards self-development. It could go towards developing a new skill, getting a new job. A lot of these men don't like to think about this shit from another person's point of view because some of them are narcissistic. They can't imagine, gee, why would they not want me in the community? it's probably because they've made a value judgment about you based on the interest that you have shown disproportionately towards them as opposed to your community. They know that you're not interested in Gynarchy, that you're not interested in community. They know that you're interested in them and that it's the fetishistic material that brought them to you. So if you know that certain kinds of material is going to bring certain types of mindsets, then it begs the question, how do you make Gynarchy more community oriented? How do you make something that's going to bring in people who are more interested in community as opposed to relationships? Because that's what it is. These people have relationship oriented mindsets. They're in it for one particular purpose. They're not there to contribute. They're not there to sacrifice for the sake of everybody else. That's not what they're about, and that's not what they're going to do. And so that leads me to the next thing. Why aren't we educating them? Now I can't speak for other people, but for me, I'm busy doing activism work. I would say that one big problem that affects whether or not to get involved with them is it's not just what they demonstrate an interest in. It's not just how they behave and react when they don't get what they want. It's also the level of interest that they maintain in their communities and their consistency. Are these people consistent? If you are not consistent, it's going to be seen as a problem. So religion made simple. Let me give you a few examples of what's been happening in these two communities alone. These are not the only ones, just some of them. There will be these guys who will come in and they will post a fetishistic comment. And then 16 to 18 days later or whatever, they will not only they will delete their channel, they're gone. You will never hear from them again. This is a story that's happened multiple times. Now, I'm not saying that we should ask the question, what can we do to maintain their interest? Rather, the question is, why should you educate somebody who's not going to stick around, who's not being consistent? Because if you show a level of dedication and interest that's worth the time, if it's worth somebody's time, they'll invest that time in you because they know that you're going to be worth it. But the thing is, if you're some wishy-washy motherfucker and you're showing up once every blue moon and then you delete your channel, what are people going to think? They're going to think, well, he doesn't have it all figured out. This person doesn't know what the fuck they want or what they're doing. That's what's going to happen there. That's what's going to happen in this community, is people are going to see that and go, well, look, you can't even stick around for a few months. Why should I invest my time and energy into helping you if you're not even going to stick around? Like, what's the point? Because it would be like this, right? Let's say you're a gym trainer or you're a boxing trainer or whatever. I've been watching a lot of boxing anime. I've been watching a boxing anime recently. So what do you want in a boxer to train? Do you want somebody who says he's going to show up, but then he ditches the gym more often than he joins, or that he shirks his duties, that he decides he's not going to work out or whatever? Do you want to train a boxer like that? Or do you want to train somebody who's going to show up every day? So it's not just about the interest, it's about the complete lack of consistency from these individuals. If you're not consistent, why should anybody take you seriously? I mean, I've had personal problems with this too, but it's been from a different issue. See, I've had people who will talk shit about me at one of those groups. It's the Gynarchism group. Every once in a while, somebody starts comparing me to a murderous terrorist. And these are the same people who have no consistency at all, in the sense that they're not out there working. They're not out there busting their ass. They're not out there doing jack shit. They show up once and then they disappear. They pull a Houdini. They're gone. So I appreciate the fact that not all fetishists are individualistic, that not all of them are extremely self-absorbed to the point where they only want one thing, that some of them are capable of being greater than they are. But that's what a lot of these guys act like. They act like this on FetLife. They've acted like this on Reddit. And so I can understand that maybe we need to have a discussion about what is good gatekeeping versus bad gatekeeping. Maybe that's a good conversation to have. And not just about fetishism, but just in general. Maybe that's finding out where the dividing lines are. Maybe that is a worthwhile conversation. But I would like it. I came here today, in a sense, to explain where this is coming from. What is the place this is coming from? And this is coming from these guys who I swear to you, they will say some of the most nasty, fucked up shit where they don't get what they want. They will call these women worthless. They will let the monster out. These are not just people who are reading content. These are misogynists coming into our community who are feigning interest in the things that you and I take very seriously. And here's the thing. You can't always differentiate who is who right away. There's not always going to be a sign that somebody is a big fucking problem. It could take months or years before you're aware of it, because people don't always reveal themselves all at once. You know, the monster lets himself out of the box a little bit of the time, so to speak. So we know that this can happen. So I think that that's a conversation that's worth having. Like, what is good gatekeeping versus bad gatekeeping? That would be a great conversation. And we can always have discussions about what could be causing group participation. We could always have a discussion about why we aren't educating more people. But I think that we need to take a more gynocentric approach here and ask, why are women a little bit more picky and choosy when it comes to who they want to interact with or educate with? And I think you have to remember that their motives are different from men's. A lot of these men are in it because they find it sexually satisfying. Women are in this for a much different reason. Some of them are in it because they want liberation, they want peace and balance, and I want peace and balance, and I want liberation for them too. I've seen the damage that some of these men have done to the women in my life. But we can't fool ourselves into thinking that these are just innocent angels who just happen to like fetishistic works. It is not about that. It's about everything else that they're doing in the name of fetishism. Because of fetishism. It is how they are treating the women in our community when the rest of us are not looking. If I hadn't taken their screenshots, I wouldn't have known half the things I do now about what they're really like when the door is closed. That's part of what motivates me to do the things that I do, because I get frustrated as hell when they show up and they type a few comments. That's another thing, by the way. Another problem with this is when they do show up and they start typing comments, you can tell that they're not putting the effort in. Where are the paragraphs? Where are the developed thoughts? No, they're not talking about that. And another thing too, some of these individuals, I get it, you know? I get wanting to welcome people into the community who are asking questions, but at the same time, when you're asking the same questions that have already been asked a million times over, what that is telling the women in the community in particular is that you're not willing to go over the older comments and read them and try to find out what the community is like. You just want people to go out of their way to answer your questions. That's what that smells like. Then they're not stupid. They know what the fuck is up. Every other man who has any sense in this community should know what the fuck is up too. How hard is it to go back and take some time out of your day to read through other people's comments and then make up your own mind, as opposed to, and even finding another comment that's almost like yours? And there have been several times, seriously, Religion, if you go back, several times where these guys are literally asking the same exact questions that another man already asked several months ago. They could just scroll on past until they get to it. Instead of putting in the work, they want other people to do the work for them. It's laziness. And there's nothing more unattractive than a lazy fucking person like that. So I'm not saying that they can't contribute, but I am saying that it's not a simple case of, you know, like gatekeeping is automatically a bad thing or a good thing. I think we need to start asking why. I think that if we get to the root of it, maybe we can have a conversation there. But my personal opinion is a little bit of gatekeeping there, here, and there is not a bad thing. To me, what's a bad thing is when we accept growth for the sake of growth, when we are trying to bring people in, but we don't think about the kinds of human beings that are stepping into our city. Like, we want people who are going to care and participate. We don't want to bring in Trojan horses who are going to fuck the city up and burn everything to the ground and destroy all the progress. And people, if we appeal to people who are behaving like this, who are acting like this, then we're appealing to the lowest common denominator. And we might gain more growth, at least in the short term, but we're not going to gain the kind of support that we need in the long run. So I think it's really a case of, can you have consistency with the growth or without the growth? And if you can't have it with growth, what do you want it for? What do you want for your community? Do you want it to be with people who care, or who care about community, who are dedicated to its growth, or do you want individuals who are there to jerk off, to talk, and then to leave? So if their behavior improved overnight and they stopped doing these things, they might be more trustworthy. But it's not just the fact that they're consuming fetishistic works. It's how they're talking to the women behind closed doors in these chats when you and I aren't looking. And I had the privilege to read many of these comments and to see their behavior firsthand. So I know things that some other men have no clue about, because they weren't service submissives, or they didn't have access to this information. But now you know. So I'm not saying that you're wrong to ask the questions. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a conversation. Maybe gatekeeping is a bad thing. Maybe we do need to find a way to educate them. But I do think we need to have a more gynocentric perspective on this, because in my point of view, if I'm a woman and I'm already getting bombarded with all this attention, I don't want to have to read through hundreds of comments every fucking day or every week or every month just to find the few good ones. I would rather somebody prove to me. Think about it this way. Put yourself in the woman's shoes, okay? Put yourself in the woman's shoes who's a moderator, who's got to run these groups. What would you rather do? Would you rather go through hundreds of comments a day when you've got a life to live and you've got your own stuff going on and you have to sift through all of this junk to find the few people who are good? Or do you want to see if anybody is consistently showing up at the groups, is putting in the work and trying to prove to everybody that they're the real deal, that they actually really care? What do you think is a better investment for their time? Because I think that's another thing that's missing from all this. Because sometimes gatekeeping grows out of the fact that we just have too much shit to do, but we also have a lot of crap being thrown at us, and we just don't always have the energy or the patience or the time to sift through it all and figure out what's what and who's who. At least that's my point of view. Thank you again for the comments. They're excellent. I look forward to reading more in the future. Please have a great day and take care, everybody.